Hi, you are listening to The Integral Being with Irina Childs, author, leader and educator, and the founder of Integral Studies Academy. This is the educational podcast that brings together spirituality and leadership, science and art, creativity, yoga and innovation. Thank you for listening in. It's a podcast for people wanting to learn how to reach the peak of human potential and live the integral happy life that you are born to live. I'm delighted to share with you the steps to take you there, as well as clear strategies and esoteric knowledge that can support your everyday life and work by transforming your perspective, taking you from unanswered questions to clarity, from a multitude of opinions to wisdom and unifying reality. This is the second episode of the podcast, and in this episode I'd like to talk about what is spiritual evolution and what are the 7 stages of spiritual evolution. So spiritual evolution is the awakening and the elevation of our consciousness and the engaging of latent aspects of our inner universe towards living the mysterious reality of our Creator, God the Father, and towards rediscovering our true and fundamental nature. These latent aspects are actually given qualities that we have inside ourselves and that we either don't fully utilize or we are not quite sure how to use yet. This quality could have been awakened in previous reincarnations and are partially awakened, and such are the gifts that we use most. But equally, we all have a very large number of other qualities that are yet to be discovered and utilized fully. Such qualities can be wisdom, geniality, extraordinary intelligence, calmness, creativity, spiritual intuition, poetic inclinations, empathy, forgiveness, courage, tenacity, willpower, determination, charisma, or extraordinary vitality. The list is just an example, and all of this can be awakened, amplified, and perfected through tools and through yoga practice. For example, I have students that are writing poetry and are pretty good at it, but they never took it seriously because they grew up in a family that were preoccupied with surviving and did not have time for studies. So this particular person came to me for help and said, I'm not sure if I'm any good, but I do enjoy writing poetry. This is an example of a latent aspect that is calling in your soul and that can be used and developed. Another example is my 8-year-old niece. She likes to dance, cook, write, sing, and she's exploring all of this with perseverance. Nobody's pushing her. She's in a continuous motion and searching to apply herself as a game. We all have done some of that in our childhood. We explored through play with courage and curiosity, and the majority of people are at least aware that they have latent gifts. Some people feel a calling and follow what they like to do, while some others feel an emptiness and want to fill it with having a role, being of service. All of these are forms of searching, a searching for meaning. The higher the meaning, the more aligned we start to be with who we truly are, beyond the roles we hold in our families or in society, workplace, and so on. The awakening of consciousness is achieved gradually at a slower or a faster pace, depending on our mental capacities and the spiritual aspiration that we show, that we manifest. To evolve spiritually, effort, determination, and patience is required in the same way it is required to become a good tennis player, an artist, or to save money to buy a better car. Anything worth its value is obtained through effort and some sort of sacrifice. It can be a sacrifice of letting go of old patterns, of letting go of the bad habits, the toxic relationships, or even bad diets. Do not believe anyone who says you don't have to do anything to evolve spiritually, just realize who you are. You're just that, and it all falls from the trees and on you, and this is all there. I remember the question of one of my yoga students many years ago. She was in the 2nd year of yoga when she asked me to explain the quote, "The path is the destination," saying to me, what is the point of yoga practice if the path is the destination? What is there to be achieved through all this practice? My answer to her then, and also here and now, is this. The path is the destination for the one who has reached the destination. Until then, the path is the path, and the destination is yet to be reached. This quote refers to a state of unity that exists continuously beyond all worldly phenomena and beyond duality in which we are all rooted and exist. However, understanding it intellectually gives as much reality as does a cooking book in feeding you. It doesn't feed you. Looking at a cookery book and talking about the flavors of a certain dish in the picture and the recipes has not nourished anyone and has not made anyone a better cook. Practice did. Experience did. It is the same with spiritual practice and the results and spiritual awakening. The results come from doing, not just reading or talking. And in fact, when it comes to inner realizations, a grammar practice values tons of theory. To evolve spiritually, immense patience is required, a permanent attention to all the phenomena that manifest in our being and around us, and the ability to learn from our experiences and from the other people who follow a spiritual path, and to remain receptive to all the wonderful examples of accomplished human beings who have already completed the spiritual evolution, reaching the ultimate liberation. So, the 7 stages of spiritual evolution. In spiritual evolution, the human being passes through different stages, each of them having some specific characteristics. And I'm going to go through all of those in a very fast pace, recognizing these characteristics can open a path towards superior levels, which lead us to perfection. Simply put, we know what to expect, and thus we are more prepared when this appears. The first stage is the period of ignorance or total lack of knowledge and even of information concerning the nature of the spirit or ultimate reality. This is generally speaking the case for a good chunk of people in the present time who believe blindly only on what they can perceive with their 5 senses or only in science and mechanical technology. But this is a big but. Remember that less than a few hundred years back, people didn't believe in electricity or in electric cars, and now we drive them just fine, if not better than classical ones. The second stage of spiritual evolution emphasizes the more or less accentuated sensitivity compared to other states of consciousness, which can be produced accidentally or in an organized traditional manner. For example, yoga practice in a group or some profound meditative state. Sometimes the awakening or the interest in spiritual aspects can be produced due to releasing of some inner processes whilst reading a valuable spiritual text. We feel as we have a light bulb moment, or we read the evidence of a great master, other times through a mystical experience, or even during the paroxysm of a painful existential crisis. In other cases, the repeated frequentation of a group of spiritual people, or even making an unconventional but efficient therapy, like having a healing massage therapy, or being cured by acupuncture, can awaken gradually in the human being the beneficial subtle forces which were latent and not suspected earlier. The third stage of spiritual evolution emphasizes the search of some efficient awakening methods of an authentic spiritual path. Here you really want to get going with some tools. This stage is most often characterized by an ardent and continuous search. We become driven to transform, and something inside us whispers that we are approaching some form of truth, something that is very good for us. We'll then search for a master, a guide, a mentor, and we rush sometimes in what can be described as a spiritual cocktail, meaning a random mixtures of courses, therapies, esoteric readings, which are randomly mixed with meditation techniques, martial arts type practices. There are some people who unfortunately concentrate horizontally only at this level, and then they believe they have found their path. Included in this category are those who immediately after their first spiritual experience think they are self-realized. They reach the end and mistakenly stop their evolution there, and instead of having a disciplined practice, start to write books and go on to wanting to capitalize this and make monies writing books about it. Others follow successfully this long journey of the third stage and find their authentic spiritual master and their true path. That is when the great spiritual adventure really starts for them. The fourth stage of spiritual evolution is the consistent approach full of perseverance of an authentic spiritual path. During this stage, the human being gradually discovers by personal experience the barriers which stop true knowledge and learns progressively to dissolve these obstacles. They can transform depending on personal spiritual evolution and according to certain individual conditions. Yet, if the respected human being seeks to reach the ultimate spiritual stage, they must never stop their practice. This stage will thus progressively extend on the entire everyday existence. This fourth stage lasts and is maintained practically unaltered in the following stages. The fifth stage emphasizes emotional stability and a state of profound inner peace, as the obstacles dissolve and are completely eliminated from the path of our consciousness, which here corresponds to the identification and control of our feelings and destructive emotions. The mental agitation of the thoughts diminishes, and the profound and euphoric peace erupts from us. This is an absolutely necessary condition for what will follow. This stage of emotional stability and profound inner peace is generally accompanied by a correct and profound understanding of the nature of reality and also of the reality of the mind. The respected human being aspires now with power for this profound and euphoric peace to embrace the whole being and the whole world. In this stage, the capacity to love is very much amplified. The sixth stage, this refers to the attaining of non-duality. Until this stage, the human being was often the theater of manifestation of various phenomena, including ups and downs, visions and forms, light, hearing some sounds, perceiving energetic vibrations. A competent spiritual teacher will help the human being to understand that almost all of those phenomena are transient and the same kind of illusion as dreams are compared to the physical universe. In all these experiences, there still exists the real illusion of the separation between the subject and the perceived object, appearing sometimes even the risk of strengthening the perpetuation of this illusion of separation. Complete dissolution of this phantasm leads progressively to the appearance of an integral, whole, and ineffable experience. The initial stage of dualistic ignorance is passed into the true godly knowledge, to that state of impersonal presence in which we astonishingly realize that there no longer exists a certain someone who knows. At this stage, we experience a constant love for human beings, and this love becomes the divine light, and it is revealed to us as being what is always was in reality from the beginning without beginning. The seventh stage marks spiritual liberation. During the preceding stage, the nature of reality was observed under the form of some profound, illuminating understanding. Now the presence of God or true knowledge is finally in place, and it will remain constant and can never be lost. There are no longer concepts and conditionings, but only a supreme space, light, boundless and radiant existence. At the same time, we stunningly discover that oceanic love and all-embracing knowledge passes through this body without being limited by it. We then realize this was a primordial state which in reality existed in our being always, but it was permanently hidden because of our previous ignorance and constraints. Now we realize that the veil has been completely dissolved. This is evidently a much simplified version, and I'll come back to this topic with more details later in our podcasts. Please join me in the next episode where I'll talk about the 7 layers of consciousness and when we start the journey through the first of them. Thank you for your attention. If you'd like to know more, join our awesome community called Integral Being. Just go to facebook.com/groups/Integral Being. Alternatively, you can get hold of my free guide and relaxation audio on how to go from stressed to refreshed that can be found on integralstudies.co.uk. Thank you for listening to Integral Being Podcast, the voice of Integral Studies Academy.